Hello and welcome to my show, Shuvra Deb with you, with me, your host, Shuvra Deb. In this show, I will be discussing mental health with the aim of raising mental health awareness in our community and in society as a whole. The genesis of the show is my own pivotal life-changing experience of being in a Category 5 hurricane back in 2017. That experience led me to suffer from post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD. I am hosting this show in order to let you know that you are not alone if something life-changing has happened to you from which you are struggling to heal. Shuvra Deb with you focuses on a range of topics relevant to mental health and to raising awareness of issues surrounding mental health. Hello everyone, welcome back to my weekly show, Shuvra Deb with you. I am live here in the studio today with my friends and my trainers from F45, and as you can see, we're on the video. This is my first recorded podcast, radio show, whoop! So guys, just by way of introduction, I have with me, as I say, guys from F45. We have the owner here, Ian Smith, and the head nutritionist, Stella Noyons. Am I saying your name right, Stella Noyons?
You are, but you can call me Stella.
Stella, thank you very much. So let's kick off by doing an introduction about, why don't you talk about yourselves for a bit first, and then we can get into what F45 is about, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Ian, if you go first. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Ian Smith, Australian. I've lived in Cayman for 9 years now. So been here for a while. Love it here. Came here originally as a lawyer and then saw the light and pursued, I guess, my dream and went into fitness. Yeah. And here we are 6 years later with F45. About it.
Amazing. And I know a little bit about this because you've told me, or maybe I've just been stalking you. I don't know which one is it. No, I'm sure you've told me that you started off doing, was it free boot camp sessions on the beach?
Yeah, so when I moved here, one of the first guys, or pretty much the first guy I met, ran these free boot camps just for his friends. And I went down, enjoyed it. It was early morning before work. It was all, he was an accountant. But he was also trying to get out of the professional services. Yeah. So he started the boot camp as part of his personal training certification. And the people that he had or that he was training wanted him to continue it. So he just kept it up. He left shortly after I arrived and I asked if I could take it over. So I did and ran it for nearly 4 years, I guess.
Wow.
3 times a week.
Wow.
Just before work, all
Amazing.
For free, all for fun.
Amazing. So you were doing that before going to your job in the law office?
Correct.
You were turning up 3 times a week, giving it your everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was fun. I came up with the workouts. It was all body weight stuff, but a fair bit of running involved, but a lot of high intensity interval stuff. So there's some, definitely similarities with F45, and I'd never heard of F45 back then, but it was just a fun way to train outdoors. We're around Kamana Bay Mondays and Fridays and on Governor's Beach on Wednesdays. So it's a nice way to start the day.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's commitment as well, doing that for as long as you did and as often as you did.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was fun. Right? And I was staying fit as well. So,
well,
we're trying to. So didn't feel like it was out of my way or it wasn't hard work at all.
Amazing. So Stella, tell us a bit about you.
All right, so I moved to Ireland about 8 years ago, and I've been working out at Health City as a dietitian for the last 6 years maybe. So that's my background. I'm a registered dietitian. I've always worked in a hospital environment. I have a passion for fitness, and that is actually what eventually prompted my move away from the hospital. I think with COVID and everything that came with COVID, I just did not want to be working in that environment anymore. Yeah, so with that, I kind of reached out to Ian and pitched myself to him. I had been going to F45 myself for about 2 years before that. I loved it. I loved the environment. I loved going there. And it was kind of weird because I always imagined myself being there and I'm part of the team, which I don't think I've even said that to him, but I was always like, I always thought to myself, I could really yeah, I want to be there like all the time.
Oh, that's so nice.
So obviously with my role as a dietitian and nutrition, I've spent sort of 10 years in that environment of coaching people through their diets, through their health, you know. So I had a very strong sort of nutrition and coaching background in that sense. Had to get my personal training certification quickly and join the team at F45. And yeah, so that's pretty much my story. I've been there now for a year.
Yeah.
It feels like I've been there much longer.
Yeah, it does
In a
feel
good
like
way.
longer. Yeah, absolutely.
No, but like in a really good way though.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, like working as a dietitian in a hospital, you know, I always kind of thought that's where I would be, but I never really loved it. My heart was never in it. And I had sort of resigned myself to never really working in a job that I loved or that I was passionate about. But now that I'm here at F45, it's been like a life-changing, I'm so happy. So happy, so like motivated, so passionate.
Wow.
And it's, I don't know, like you hear people say when they speak about jobs that they absolutely love so much. And I always thought, you know, you say that.
Whatever.
Until I found something, you know, that I do
Wow.
feel that way about. And now I know exactly what people mean when they speak
Yeah.
about doing something that they absolutely love.
That's so nice. That's
my story.
totally, that makes me so happy. It really fills my heart. And again, you know, I say these corny things, but it's true. Like hearing both of you and seeing your eyes light up as they have been, as you've been telling me your stories, your transition from law into F45, your transition into health dietitian work in a hospital into F45, you really are living your passion, living your dream. I love that. I love that so much. And another thing you raised was the team atmosphere. So you were there working out and you felt that you wanted to be a part of that team. And
Yeah.
that's part of the slogan, the tagline, isn't it? F45 team training.
Training,
Life-changing.
life-changing.
Life-changing, that's it. Life-changing team training. Yeah, no, and it truly is. And I've got my own story about that. But, you know, this isn't about me for a change. This is about you guys. So life-changing team training, but also F45. What does that mean? What does it stand for, the F and the 45?
Well, the F stands for functional. So it's based around functional training. So the foundational movements, I guess. So I guess the simplest way to put it, or I put it, is just training the body to move in the way that it was designed to move, right? So multiple planes, unilateral work. So you see a lot of dumbbells, kettlebells, you know, instead of like a Smith machine where you're just pushing or pulling in one direction.
Yeah.
So a lot of functional movements that help you in everyday life, and that's what makes it accessible to everyone. I'm sure we'll go into that in a lot more detail further down the track, but so that's the F, and then 45, the classes are 45 minutes long, so pretty simple. So functional 45, it says does what it says
does
on
what
the
it
tin.
says on the tin.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and one of the things I also love so much is that no two workouts are the same. I mean, there are repeat movements, of course, such as pull-ups, squats, bench presses, or bench hops even. But it's amazing, isn't it, how, and I think this is right, that around the world, on any given day, every single F45 member in every single F45 gym will be doing the same workout.
That is correct.
Yeah. So how does that process work? It's fascinating.
Well, F45 started in Australia, so it's an Australian brand. There is a dedicated athletics team based at the moment in Sydney. There is talk of them moving, but there's also a head office in Austin now in Texas.
Great.
But at the moment, athletics team in Australia comes up with the workouts. Apparently there's a computer algorithm that makes sure that no two workouts are ever repeated.
Wow.
But like you say, you know, through the weeks, like today we did 2-2. Next Wednesday we'll do 2-2, but the combination of exercises will always be different. So, you know, you might be doing the same workout, but you'll be doing different exercises within that workout. So I think there's over 4,000 exercises in the database. They're always adding new exercises. They often bring in new pieces of equipment as well. So, you know, I think that's the beauty of F45 really, is that at the end of the night, you know, we pack away everything and we have a blank canvas, right? And we set up for the next day. Any new trends like the ski ergs and the bike ergs we recently got, we picked up. Well, I say recently, we've probably had them for a year.
Over
Yeah,
So,
about a year or so,
I mean, bringing those pieces of equipment in has really changed. Or, you know, brought up the level of, you know, the service that we provide. So we'll always have that ability to add new pieces of equipment or to innovate. That's great.
Yeah. And this is something that coming from being a member first for F45, I've spent many years I've always loved exercise, right? But I'm somebody that gets bored really easily doing the same thing over and over again. And I know a lot of people also struggle with that same thing. So I've tried various different things on Island, right? From gym to the Muay Thai, boxing fit, I didn't do CrossFit, but point is that the reason that I loved and stuck with F45 is because it changes up all the time. There's always something new. Just when you think you've gotten into a rhythm with something, they throw something else at you and make you think more than you usually have to think, change things up. And recently I've really loved how they've started including a lot more teamwork exercises, because it used to be very much just yourself at your station, right? But now it's people getting involved with each other. And it's been so lovely to see members sort of interacting with each other and encouraging each other. And it just brings a whole new element to it, which I've really loved over recently that they've started incorporating more teamwork sort of exercises.
Yeah, no, I have noticed that. And of course, all the other gyms and places are great too. Like you mentioned Muay Thai, that's a very specific type of thing. And I suppose if somebody does want to do their own thing, then somewhere like Anytime or World Gym or whatever would be a great place to go and do that. But one of the things I love, for exactly the same reason that you stuck with F45, that's exactly why I did too. Because I love that team spirit and the variety and the never having to do the same thing twice, right? So Ian, you mentioned the ski ergs and getting the new equipment in. And I know, Stella, you've been working on what I'm about to ask you about. So with all of that stuff comes a lot of technique, right? Getting the technique right, the form. So, here you have this class. And I think one of the busiest classes we had was, I think there were 52 people in that class on a Monday or a Wednesday or something like that. And there's, I think there were 3 or 4 of you on the floor doing the training. How do you get people to focus on their form?
By walking around and saying it out loud. No, I'm teasing.
No, you do.
I do,
but you do more than that. This is why I'm asking you.
Well, I think, so with busier classes, we've got more of us on the floor, which is a great opportunity for us to really get into that one-on-one with people. And this is something that's also really great about F45. It's group training with a sort of personal training element to it. So we are constantly just monitoring and watching people and making sure that all the exercises are being performed correctly. And if not, we can quickly jump in and make slight adjustments. And most of the time, it is just a very slight adjustment that somebody has to make before they can actually feel what they're supposed to be feeling or work the muscle that they're supposed to be working, right? But in addition to being there in classes, we do the demos before, obviously, every class. So we go through each exercise with the correct form. Whether people actually pay attention is another story, but we do it. It's
the opportunity's there.
It's there. No, I'm joking. People do watch, hopefully.
Well, I sometimes get distracted, so but I do try.
So there are many different avenues that we make sure people do their correct form, all right? Firstly, we do the demos, and we demo them correctly. Then we're walking around, making adjustments. Then we also do our social media posts.
Tell me about those.
Yeah, we've been doing for the last year. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Well, I think you're probably the best person to speak about it, considering you do most of them. But I think, Shuvra, you've commented to me that, the stories that are posted on several days a week are very informative and topical. And I think, Stella's done a great job with that, highlighting form, even a screenshot of someone mid-exercise.
Yeah, saying, with writing as well.
Yes.
Yeah, you actually write down what form to hold. And,
So, 2 elements, right? That's the first. And I think that's a great addition to what we do. And like I said, Stella's taken charge of that and is doing an amazing job. We do technique videos as well. So Technique Tuesdays. So we're getting all of the trainers involved and just trying to pick an exercise, once a week where they can go into a bit more detail, right? And cue it in their own way, in their own unique way. We've got a very diverse team. But that's the idea, is to provide that knowledge and those resources to our members, right? to help them. Like Stella said, I think there's several things that we do, and I think F45 is, it's just that ideal combination of personal training, group training, team training, all under the one roof. So, we try to do everything we can to provide that personal level of service.
Yeah.
But we're not one-on-one.
No.
But you get the fun of being able to train with your friends at the same time. So, I think technique, form, those things are very important to us.
Yeah.
And the guys do a great job focusing on that. In terms of knowledge sharing as well, making sure people are prepared. The trainers are prepared before class, understanding what the class is, understanding the exercises. F45 provides a lot of resources around that. So that certainly helps. But obviously with their own personal knowledge as well. I think it all comes under one roof and it all works, right? It's fun. There's that element of seriousness to it. Like we want you guys to pay attention during the demos.
And to work hard.
And the exercises are up on the screens at the front of the studio at all times as well.
That's right,
there's always a point of reference, but the trainers lead the class. It's their responsibility to take control and make sure to the best of their ability that they're getting around and helping the members. I think we do a good job of that.
I think so too, for what it's worth. I mean, I go to class, 6 times a week, less so recently because I've been slightly injured, but now I'm coming back in and I love it. I love the commitment to making sure that everybody knows what the exercises are. You've done the demo. Sometimes I think you guys even pick up on when people might be half asleep or distracted or, looking at the ceiling or whatever. And so then you repeat, core parts of the demo again as we're warming up. And all of that's great. And so from the moment I walk into the gym, you guys are super enthusiastic. You're engaged, you're switched on, you greet people by their names. How you remember everyone's name, I have no idea, but you do.
Can I tell you, when I first started, I also said to myself, how on earth am I going to remember all these people's names? But it happens, it just comes.
How do you? Is there some kind of secret F45 name remembering technique?
Everyone has their own technique or way to do it.
You just see the same people over and over again every day, right? We've got the photos on the
repetition
on the iPad. For me, being in charge of the challenge, which we'll get into later, that has been a big reason that I've managed to get to know so many people. Because I'm working quite closely with a lot of people through the challenge. So that's one way that I know everybody.
Great.
But we all have our methods.
From my perspective, I think knowing members' names is crucial. It's one of the first things we talk about, when we're onboarding a new trainer. But, for me, stepping back and looking, sort of down into it all and seeing what these guys do on a daily basis, I think it's because they care. Right? They really want to make a difference and build those relationships. Because if you don't, it's going to make it harder. But if you really want to make a difference and really want to engage with someone, you're going to make that effort. And I think the guys do.
Well, otherwise there's a barrier, isn't there? If somebody's not fully engaged, if somebody's not passionate about what they're doing and, where they are, then you can just see that there's, either eyes are glazed over or they're looking somewhere else and it just, it doesn't gel.
Right? Yeah, exactly.
So I guess my next question arises out of that enthusiasm, the commitment, the engagement. How do you, get there? You're up at 4 a.m. if you're doing the 5:30 a.m. first class, right? So tell me about how you get to that level of bing and stay that way.
I don't think I can speak for all the trainers. I can certainly speak for myself and how I do it. I think for me, I'm naturally a person that feeds off somebody else's energy and passion, right? And for me, when members are waking up at 5 a.m. to get their butts, I can say butt, right? To get their butts to the gym for 5:30 a.m., 5 to 7 days a week. I would never be able to do that. And if those guys are willing to turn up for that, then I'm there, right? So I feed off that passion and that energy, although they might be a bit sleepy in the morning. I don't know really what to say besides the fact that for me, I'm just really passionate about it and I love it. So even though I'm feeling super low energy, the minute I step in there, somehow, somewhere the energy comes from.
Maybe it's one of those mental things as well, that you just know you're stepping through that threshold, you're walking through the door, and that's, what you're doing now for the next few hours or whatever it is.
And also it, like we were mentioning earlier, sort of the members become friends. So, and I often say this, is that we're a family there, right? I follow a lot. We follow each other on social media, so you're getting to see what they've gotten up to on the weekend. What's happening in their lives. So when you step in there,
why they're not there on Monday morning.
So when you step in there, it's not just me, the trainer, versus you, the member. It's me saying, oh, hey, I saw you did this over the weekend.
Yeah.
Or I saw you've got your family visiting, or you're traveling.
Yeah.
And it's just become so much more personable, and it's just like you're hanging out with friends, really. That's how I kind of view it.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I don't know.
That's got to be the best
I don't know
job.
if all the trainers view it like that, but that's how I view it. And that's how I feel when I step in there. And I think the energy just naturally comes from that. That's one element of it. And then the second element is that I've had to learn to put boundaries in place for myself, because you are giving so much energy. I need to have that boundary of when I'm at home, I need downtime, like serious downtime, just to balance that out, right? Because you're giving so much of yourself. Then, so on the weekends, I don't really move from the sofa much, but or getting fresh air. So yeah, just things like that. I don't know if you have anything different, or
I mean, I think it all comes back to that first thing we spoke about, right? Is loving what you do and having a passion for what you do, whatever it is. And for us, it's training people and hopefully making a difference in someone's life. And that's the way I've always viewed it since opening, right? That's my opportunity to have an impact on someone. And that's motivation, I think, and it's not difficult. I don't want to say it came easily, and I don't want to say for any of these guys that getting up at in the dark is easy, and working long hours, it's a tough physical job. So a lot goes into it, and like Stella says, you leave so much of yourself out on the floor in every class, and these guys are coaching up to 4 classes in a row. It's hard and it's physical. You're getting, I keep saying to the guys, or encouraging them to do reps with the members to push them. But I know how demanding it can be, and we've all been there, and it's hard work. So people, and I know when I first started, my friends back home in Australia would joke, saying that I'm just a personal trainer walking around clapping my hands every couple of minutes, and I've got the best job in the world. But I do have the best job in the world, but it's tough. The early mornings, sometimes, the evenings, these guys work, they get out of there 8:15, 8:30, have to go home, have dinner, and then they're back up at 4 o'clock coming back in the next day. We try to limit that, but it's not avoidable all the time.
No, of course. Especially when people are on vacation, for example.
I mean, we've got a big team, but when people go away, there's always, classes that need to be covered. But I think just loving what you do, when that alarm clock goes off, it's less of, oh God, I've got to get up and go to work. It's, okay, now I need to get going. And I think, whatever stage it happens, and for me, it used to be, when I used to coach a lot more than I do now, but for me, it used to be pulling into the Strand and seeing the F45 sign. And it might sound cheesy, but that was my kind of cue to be like, yes, I'm excited. I can't wait for this day.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's
not cheesy. I love cheese. I love cheesy. I say cheesy things all the time on my show.
With 2 people that love cheese.
We're just going to be a cheese fest, guys. Sorry.
I mean, I think it's, I think we both provide a unique perspective, for me as coming into this as the owner and starting it from not scratch, but bringing it here, obviously with a team. Stella coming, from a member. And being within the studio and within our F45 family, as she put it, which, I think is the way we have to look at it. And, you look at the most successful F45 studios around the world, and the one thing they have common is the community that they've built, within the studio, but also within their local community. And I think we're quite fortunate in Cayman that it's a small place, but at the same time, word of mouth can work both ways, right?
Of course. I think it works both ways a lot more in a small community.
If we're not providing a good service, then we're going to find out pretty quickly. So that gives us, I think, incentive and the motivation to continue to provide the best service possible. But I think, I mean, everyone's got their own motivations, right? I think everyone has their own reasons for getting into personal training or into fitness. I had mine. Stella had hers, and we've kind of touched on those. But whatever it does, I think all the guys, come in and you can see, the energy and the smiles on their faces, and I think just that engagement right from the start. So I think we're very fortunate. And again, I can't speak for anyone else, but I will say, for us to be able to do what we do every day. And I mean, for me, Stella, similar, but for me to be able to not wear a suit and not have to sit behind a computer and answer to someone, and
Yeah, all of that.
I mean, I looked at lawyering or being a lawyer as helping
I call it
people.
lawyering as well.
Yeah, I
I've probably stopped doing
I
that.
had to try to correct myself. But, it's still helping people. But, I mean, this is
In a different way.
different.
In a different way. Yeah,
Entirely
no,
different.
absolutely. And Stella, you touched on something, and I want Ian for you to talk about that a bit. So obviously building yourself up, being passionate, being present for yourselves, for your clients is really important. But equally as important, in my view, is the opposite, which is the downtime, the bringing yourself back to center, maintaining that balance. So are there things, Ian, that you like to do to help you with that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, like Stella said earlier, I think you have to create boundaries. I was very bad at doing that, and I don't know if that was a byproduct of my
Lawyering.
previous occupation. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where you do all-nighters, or you're on call.
Yeah.
You're working late nights all the time. You're working weekends. You've always got your phone answering emails. And I did used to do that with F45. I think there was a level of service that I wanted to provide, and a turnaround on emails, which just meant, I'd get home from a day of coaching and I'd be on my phone during dinner answering emails. And again, I thought nothing of it at the time because I'm like, this is great. This is my job. I get to do this. I get to speak to someone. But I think, if you want to make this a career and make it last a long time, you've got to kind of be able to step back. Having a kid has obviously changed my perspective a lot, because I can turn my focus to him. But it's hard. Like, it's hard being present all the time, and I want to be there for my members, but I also need to be there for my family.
Of course.
So
And yourself. I mean, one of the previous
Yes.
shows that I did was on stress management, and my research led me to find out that some of the most stressed out people are ones who have their passion as their job, or their job as their passion, whichever, comes first. So that would be you guys, and people who are in a caring profession. And I used in that show doctors and nurses as an example. But hearing you guys speak and seeing you guys on the floor, as I do almost every day in F45, I would say that you're in a caring profession as well, because there you are caring for us, your members.
Yeah.
So for you guys, you're potentially at a higher risk of kind of falling away from that balance and getting too consumed by everything. So it's good that you do maintain that balance.
Yeah, and I think, again, I won't speak for Stella, but I think for the both of us being in the fitness industry, full-time roles are quite rare. But both of us being full-time with F45, I think it's more, I don't want to say more important, because I think everyone needs to kind of step away, and I think the other trainers who have other casual jobs or are personal trainers outside of F45, they have their outlets, whether it's working out once or twice a day or coaching their clients. But for us, it's essential to be able to step away when we can, and everyone's got different ways of doing it. I hope I'm not too hard a boss, but I think we all expect a lot from each other, and for me, starting this all and obviously with Evelyn, but getting into a position where I now have Stella just completely running and reinvigorating the challenges. Like, I don't have to even think about it. But kind of letting go of those sorts of things was quite difficult as well.
Because it's your baby, it's your, you want to make sure that you're, I don't want to use the words control freak, but there you go, I said it. I'm the same. I am the same.
And,
I want to have to oversee everything I do, and not being able to be in charge annoys me. So I get that.
But I guess that's one boundary I've tried to really create for myself, is just let these guys do what they're really good at doing, and I'm lucky to have. I won't go through everyone, but obviously it's an amazing team. But my full-time trainers or staff, OJ as head trainer, to be able to kind of look after the workouts and help with training new trainers and just keeping the standards up and maintaining the studio. Obviously Stella with the challenge and more. Christina helping with the memberships. Really taking over that process. So. It's not something that one person can do, and being able to let go of a lot of those things has helped. And to be honest, these guys are probably doing a better job of what I was doing with it anyway. So it allows me to focus on what I need to focus on, which is kind of I want to say growth, because we're still growing. But retention is a huge thing for us, and I think switching our focus to retention particularly over the last 12 months, with more focus on the workshops that we do. So Christina organising all of those to make sure that we're offering more to our members. And then, again, I'll say the challenge. It's just, we're not necessarily signing up new people, although we do, but you can see the engagement from the existing membership. People that have been with us for 5 years or 6 years have never done a challenge. Now they're doing the challenges because of how they run. So, but I think to answer your question, you've got to step away. You've got to enjoy the time out of the studio. I'm lucky. I've got a pretty good home office, so I'm very happy to be set up there. I try to get in the studio still as much as I can, but that usually just consists of doing one class a week. I'm now coaching maybe one class a week as well. So it's not a lot compared to what it was. I remember, having to set up a bed in the studio.
Oh, wow, really?
Not overnight, obviously, but
just to catch a power nap when you could.
Afternoon nap. And, I know Stella loves a nap. I'm not saying at the studio. But
not at the studio.
That look of horror on your face.
Not at the studio, so I should have made that very clear.
I have to have a nap every day. God.
Yeah, but I think you have to, right?
I think you guys do with the hours you keep. If you are getting up at 4 a.m. and then if you are in at the last class getting home at 8:15, then not having a nap is not an option.
Yeah. Sorry, I know I've been kind of hijacking this conversation, but the last thing for me is, sport or fitness used to be my outlet from my profession or, to relieve stress, and now it's kind of one and the same. So, for me, it's, breathing workshops, that you've been taking at the studio.
I have. I've really enjoyed doing those. Thank you for letting me.
And I never thought I'd be that person where that would, I guess, look at self-care as much as I do now. And, I try to do breathing exercises every night before I go to bed.
Amazing.
And it's helped me immensely, just switch off. I used to be a terrible sleeper. Couldn't get to sleep, woke up a number of times during the night, and now I'm out.
That's great.
I mean, Harry wakes me up pretty much every night. But that's a different story. But I think they're the things that now I'm doing, and just taking that time to step away and try to do a mobility kind of program once a day, just 20 minutes where I can just switch off and just sit outside and just stretch and work on self-care. It's made a huge difference, and I think that's super important. And that's what I would recommend to anyone coming into this industry. I know that's something we might talk about down the track as well. But anyway, I think I've been talking for
I'm going to come back to the challenge. Because, I am an absolute convert on that. But you touched on something, and I just want to flip that around. So going from the physical side to the more essentially spiritual self-care side you just talked about. And this is a question for both of you. So, the old maxim, I don't know if it is an old maxim, but the maxim that we are spiritual beings having a human existence. So there's a whole load of people out there who are very focused on the spirit, who are very focused on meditation or on other spiritual practices, and who may, in part because of that, neglect their bodies and not maintain as much movement or as much physical exercise. What advice, I suppose, would you have for people who do that? Firstly, is it important to move the body? And I think the answer is yes to that. And I'm guessing by the jobs that you do, you think so too. So for people who might be more focused on their spiritual side, who might not be exercising as much as perhaps they should be or as much as they'd like to be, who might not be following a healthy, nutritious diet, what would you say to them?
I think it's important when we're looking at health and wellness to consider that it's not one thing or the other, or even that one is more important than the other, in the sense that when you are on a journey to improve your health and wellness, obviously nutrition is key, movement, and I say movement as a broad word because it doesn't have to be one specific movement or another, right? We're all different, and whatever movement works for you or you feel that you get the most out of, that's what you need to be focusing on. So nutrition and movement, obviously there's the spiritual, as you say, element to it, or can we say that it's the same as mental health? Spiritual, mental, emotional.
I think it's all tied. It's all one and the same thing. Physical and spiritual and mental. You can't have one without the other.
Exactly.
Others, plural.
Exactly. And that's why I always like to bring an approach that's sort of an all-encompassing approach. So my background is nutrition, yes, but you will often find me not just speaking about nutrition. I'm often speaking about like sleep and stress management, and now there's more and more research coming out on the importance of recovery and sleep and stress management, like we were saying. So we're all on these journeys, right? Health and wellness is sort of the big goal up in the air, and we all are trying to reach it in one way or the other. Some people focus solely on nutrition, some people focus solely on movement, some people focus solely on their spiritual practices, but you can't really, and you shouldn't really have one without the others. You need to be working on all of them, and that can be overwhelming for some people because it is a lot of work to do, right?
Well, that was going to be my next kind of point from that. People who are time stressed, who have the long hours. You described your job lawyering, the long days, the weekends, the late nights, and then a family on top of that, perhaps other care commitments.
Well, that's the majority of people, right?
And that's everyone, jobs, families.
That's why we have the health problems that we do in the world, because there's just too much going on. And if you are super stressed at work and family life, and you're supporting, this person and that person, you don't have time or space or like mental capacity to consider the fact that you have to buy groceries, you have to meal prep, you have to go to the gym, you have to meditate, you have to get in your X amount of sleep. There's so much, and it can seem so overwhelming. The good news is, though, that...
Tell us the good news.
The good news. The good news is that even if you make small changes in any of those sort of elements of your life, and by small change I mean something like 5 minutes. Let's say, for example, you want to improve your sleep. If you just dedicate if you go to bed 5 minutes earlier, or if you dedicate 5 minutes to breathing, or 5 minutes to journaling or meditating, and then let's say you want to eat healthier, you dedicate maybe 5 more minutes to just sitting down with a meal, or physical exercise, go walking for 5 minutes. So 5 minutes seems really nothing in the greater scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
But if you do that consistently over time, so consistency is the key word here, pretty soon your 5 minutes is going to turn into 8 minutes, and then it's going to turn into 10 minutes, and then it's just that snowball effect,
and it becomes a habit.
It becomes a habit.
Yeah.
That's where I'm leading.
That's so funny. I actually did a whole show on this, I think, about having a 15-minute practice, whether that's some kind of meditation, breathing exercise, or finishing a new project.
Yeah, so 15 minutes, I say take it down to 5 minutes if you really feel that you're struggling.
Yeah.
And just start with one thing, and just start with 5 minutes, and just do that every single day. And it doesn't sound like much. See, unfortunately, we live in a world where we want things to be very dramatic, and we want big changes, and we want things
instant
to happen.
gratification.
Yes, we want things to happen very quickly. And, unfortunately, though, health and wellness, it takes time, it takes consistency, and for the most part, it's not very flashy. It's waking up every day, eating the same balanced breakfast, perhaps that you ate yesterday, eating a balanced snack, eating a balanced lunch, drinking your water, going to the gym. There's nothing really super flashy about that. But if you do that every day for weeks and months, then you will see changes, and you will get closer to your goals, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually a good segue into the challenge.
Yeah, I mean, this leads really well into the challenge. So
because that is my approach to the challenge, and one of the big changes that I've made. I believe in a very sustainable approach, right, to health and wellness. So for me, and I say this to all the members who sign up for the challenge is a step towards your goal, to where you want to be. I mean, we can perhaps first go into what exactly the challenges are.
Detail
about it.
You mentioned at the start members who had been members, or who have been members for 5 or 6 years and never been on the challenge, and then suddenly they go on the F45 challenge. Well, I'm one of those, right? So I was a member for 3.5 years, something like that. 3 years. Yeah, I haven't been here that long. And I was off to Vegas for my 40th. That happened in August. And the challenge before that, I think, was April, round about then. I think it started in mid-April. And I think I was in one of the early classes, and Christina was just looking at me holding the pen or something, pointing at the sheet or something like that. And I just, in a moment of madness, signed up to this thing. And I had been terrified of the challenge. I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I can never do this. I'm going to starve to death. It's going to be way too much commitment. I'm going to end up wasting food. I heard all these myths, all these rumors, as I now know them to be, about this, this challenge. But anyway, I signed up, and, all of that was complete myth, because it is, as you say, a healthy, balanced diet. And I'm going to let you go into that. And it's good, focused workouts. We've already touched on that. And I ended up having a great time. So for the first time in years probably, I was working out, and I was working out better. I was getting fitter. I wasn't hungry between meals. I didn't have to work out 3 times a day to make myself feel good or feel like I was making a difference. I was working out once a day with a yoga practice as well for, the mental calm and stretching and that side of it. And then, I stayed with it. I went on for like 3.5 months before Vegas. And I got into fantastic shape.
Did so well.
Yeah, I did so well. Got into really good shape, cut out the alcohol, and then went to Vegas. and then had a great time. I had an amazing time. That's the thing, right? I had so much energy when I was over there. I mean, I didn't need the oxygen to not sleep. I'd just come off the challenge. So yeah, tell me, Ian, tell me about the challenge, because of course you've been involved in it longer, having, been the owner for
it's always been a great addition to what we do in the studio, and I'm sure Stella will agree that nutrition plays such a huge part, and there's all sorts of sayings like 90% of the work is done in the kitchen, or there's all sorts of different ratios, but I think the main point is that nutrition is key, and we see that we see people who train 5-6 times a week, who train well, but they're probably not getting quite the results that they're really after, and that's that missing ingredient, right? But they used to be 8-week challenges when we first started. I was just thinking back when we started this conversation, but when we ran our first 8-week challenge, I think us as trainers didn't really know what we were doing.
I love that.
Yeah, and the members were looking to us for guidance, and I think the resources that we had from head office were okay, and we saw some really good results right from the start, but talking about small habits or starting small, I think that's what put a lot of people off, was they signed up for the challenge and felt as though they had to clear out their whole cupboards and fridges and start from scratch. And, I saw someone that had been at Foster's after a Saturday Hollywood class. She came and I think did the first class. I saw her in the car park 3 hours later after we finished all the classes and cleaned up. And she just came out with a shopping trolley full of stuff, and she's like, oh my God, this is a nightmare. And she lasted a week on the challenge because it was just too much. Yeah. It was too much all at once. Yeah. Right? So I think for me, the key takeaway was, just learn something. You're not going to change your life in 8 weeks, but what you can do is pick up 1 or 2 good habits.
But also on that point, totally. I'm going to let you come back to that. But on that point, the same thing happened with me. And I remember seeing you in the supermarket.
Yes.
So the day that I, start this challenge, or I think it starts on a Monday, right? So there I am on Saturday in Foster's and picking up all my groceries. And I've got the list, I've got the checklist, and I'm, pinging things off. And I've got my additional list of other things. I'm feeling so overwhelmed because A, it's a Saturday in Foster's, so it's super busy. B, here I am with this huge cart full of stuff. And I'm just like thinking, wow. But then, that cart full of stuff lasted me not just, I think it was a 6-week challenge I was on, not just the 3.5 months that I was doing it, but I still have some of that stuff because it's long life stuff, like rice, like maple syrup, like shelf goods that you spend a lot of money on potentially the first time round, unless you already have this stuff, of course. But then after that, it's just top up shopping. And so 2 points really in terms of the overwhelm. Yeah, that happened to me the first time, but then after that it was fine. And the second point is the cost point. You might spend a bit more money the first time round, but then it's just top up shopping.
And you've got those items.
And you've got those items, and it works out cheaper than not doing the challenge, as I worked out, because I assiduously study my receipts and I do my budgets, and I saw that I was spending less money overall by doing the F45 challenge because I wasn't going out as much. I wasn't drinking at all back then. Now I'm drinking a lot less, so that still has an effect. And so that all works out really well. But sorry, you were saying, Ian, it becomes a habit.
No, I think it's all valid, and we've seen that progression over the years. And when again going back to those first challenges, the first 2 weeks was, they called it the detox phase. And you had to cut out coffee, which a lot of people here struggled with. And I would struggle with.
I think was another one.
Dairy,
yeah.
obviously alcohol.
Yeah.
And, it's a very social island. And I think most people, really do struggle. And that's what turns them off, to be honest, is I've got to cut out all of these things. I can't do it. It's too hard. Or I've got a birthday in the middle of it, so it's not worth my time.
And that was quite recent. The switch over from all that cutting out stuff only happened quite recently.
Couple of years.
Has it been a couple of years already?
I've been there. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So just a bit of background about the challenge. So F45 HQ, they release the dates for the challenge. So similarly, everybody worldwide are doing the challenges over the same dates, all right? This year we had 2 8-week challenges and 2 6-week challenges, and they run pretty much back to back. There's a break mid-year and in the beginning of the year. They've done a great job with evolving the challenge. So I knew about the challenge as I was a member, and I knew at that point, for me as a dietitian with nutrition background, I said to myself, this is not so hot. I didn't love it. But by the time I came on board, they had already started making big changes. I know they've got a dietitian on board as well there with the challenge. So a lot of good changes. So now you don't have to cut out coffee and dairy. It's not as restrictive by any means. They've adjusted the calories to be a lot more realistic, because it used to be overly restrictive. People were hungry. One size fits all. Yeah, one size fits all. People were hungry on the challenge. They were low energy. And that's not what we want in any way, shape or form, right? So, I mean, I came on with the biggest emphasis for me was to manage the challenge, because I saw potential for me to be a middleman essentially between what the challenge is, what the resources that are provided, and the person, because there is a bit of a learning curve, right? So since it is worldwide, you get a challenge app, you get all the, as you know, all the recipes, all the meal plans, everything is set out for you, but there's still another additional step between that and somebody actually doing it, because it can seem very overwhelming. So like I said before, my approach was always to help make the challenge a little bit more not only sustainable, but just a little bit more individual, because we're all different people and we're all approach things differently. You, for example, you're quite sort of analytical, like by the book, right? You got that. You got those recipes.
To the gram.
You got those ingredients. And that's great. But a lot of people are not like that.
Yeah, sure.
And they won't do that. So then I help provide tools for them to do the challenge in a way that maybe they can do sustainably, right? Or that
You've made it a lot more accessible.
Accessible, that's the word. I'm like, the word is in my head, but I can't find. Accessible is the word, yes. And in addition to it being, in my opinion, a step, like every challenge, every 8 weeks, 6 weeks, because that's not a long period of time, right? 8 weeks is not long in the greater scheme of things. That's a step towards where you want to be. In addition to that, I want people to take out of the challenge whatever they want. For example, some people might do the challenge and come out of it only developing 2 new healthy habits, and that's absolutely fine. Yeah. Some people will come out of it working out 7 days a week, and that's also great.
And those healthy habits, they don't have to be nutrition related necessarily. It can be switching off electronics an hour before bed, for example, going to bed 20 minutes earlier.
Exactly, yeah. So I try to provide a lot of additional resources. Like, I send emails. I love my emails.
I love your emails.
And for some reason, this challenge round, I decided that I was going to send out 3 emails a week as opposed to my usual 1
I love
email
it. They're so
week.
motivational.
I'm a sucker for punishment. No, the thing for me is that I try to make things I try to make the challenge different and engaging every time round, because I don't just want it to be the same thing over and over again. People get bored, like you say, you've been a member for so long now, and then you jumped in on the one challenge, and I think you've done another one sort of.
Yeah, I'm on one now. I had my morning snack before I arrived.
So I want members to learn something new each time, to be engaged in a different way, because there's so many different facets of health. So that's why we have different teams every now and then, or we do different challenges. We have the Beat the Trainer and the, just lots of different elements for people to engage as much or as little as they want in the challenge and get whatever they want out of the challenge.
Yeah. So it's all inclusive. It's not a case of, you have to be full on in and, like I sometimes obsessively do, measure things by the gram. That's probably not really what most normal people do. So
well, I wouldn't say it's normal. It's just what works for you. That's the type of person that you are. And that's normal for you. And that's absolutely fine, right? It's not for somebody else. It's not for me. I can't do that. So I will do something that works for me. And that's just what health is, right? It's finding something that works for you. And whether it's exercise or diet. But yeah, so we've had a lot of engagement over the challenges, a lot more in the last year.
Yeah.
So we're running on now, I think our largest challenge was just the previous one. We had about 150 people. And this one we've got 120. So not much smaller.
Yeah, I was going to say I reckon we've signed up there's probably been over 400 members in the last 3 challenges this year.
Yes,
amazing.
And a lot of those repeat challenges. Which
loads of
we've just never seen before.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key takeaway is it's now accessible.
Yeah.
More accessible.
And this
It's
is all
more
inclusive
sustainable.
within the membership. I mean, that's a key point to make, right? This is, I feel like I'm getting it for free because essentially I am.
A small fee. But
There's a small fee, I think, for the
fee.
couple of scans.
Yep.
But in
Yes.
terms of what you get out of it, there's, not regular, but there's a couple of consultations with you, Stella, on the diet nutrition side of it.
Yeah, so that's an extra that we've added in over the last 2 challenges, is to give that opportunity for, once again, somebody who might need just that little bit of extra guidance. So
Yeah, I mean,
what
I sure did.
Yeah,
I sometimes still do.
Yeah, we've done it. Yeah, we did it. So, I mean,
Yeah.
exactly what the consult was. We call it a consult. But, I mean, with my background there, so what I do is I just dive into a little bit more detail about exactly what your diet is, what your life's like, and then just give you a little bit more personalized advice and guidance to get through the challenge. But yeah. So
I think you summed it up well. I think the Challenge app is such a great resource.
Yes.
And I think HQ have done a great job in keeping it updated, but then making it more user friendly, right? Instead of just a one size fits all. I think females was 12 or 1,300 calories a day, males was 1,700.
And
it didn't take into account. Yeah, exactly. It didn't take into account. Exercise,
different
activity
heights,
levels,
different.
exactly. So they've done a lot better job there. But I think the missing or the key link is Stella, right? And whether other studios have someone in her role, I think they're crazy if they don't. But obviously, a lot of studios aren't lucky enough to have someone of Stella's experience and qualifications. But I think that was I don't want to say missing link, but that's definitely the link that puts it all together, right? Because we've got everything in the studio, we've got the Challenge app, and instead of saying here's the app, go do your thing, she's there. And like whether it's the emails, the consultations, or just being in studio, being there, WhatsApp groups.
WhatsApp groups.
Yes.
That's been a fun addition.
Lots of emojis and photos going around on the WhatsApp groups. It's great.
But it
keeps each other, inspired and motivated.
Yeah. I mean, it's about accountability and it's about engagement. And I think, instead of feeling as though you're doing it on your own, which a lot of people did in the past, it's more, hey, I'm not alone here, or I made this meal from the Challenge app and it was horrible, but I don't want to say anything. Now I can say something and someone else is going to say, yeah, that was really bad. Or I really love this one, so I'm going to keep cooking it. Or, hey, guys, I really struggled with today's workout. And you're seeing these conversations evolve, which I think is awesome.
Yeah. And something else that I wanted to mention about the challenge, I know it's very much so. The reason that most people do the challenge is that they want to lose body fat percentage, right? Some people do it because they want to gain some muscle, but majority of people who join, it's for body fat loss, and I know that's the end goal, and it's very easy to become sort of hyper focused on those numbers, but I also really try really hard to get members to think about themselves and their health and their worth as more than just the number that's on the scale, right? And that's why I do try to add in extra challenges and extra elements that help them realize that, I got a push-up, like I can get a push-up now. Or, I mean, we've had members who have achieved so many amazing things over the challenges. It's amazing. We get people up on the pull-up bars who have never gone up there before, people who do box jumps, bench hops, push-ups, people who are pushing themselves with their weights. It's amazing. But the idea is that I want them to consider themselves and their health and their wellness and their worth
more than what's in the mirror, more than what's on the weighing scales.
Because what that scale says, it means nothing about who they are as a person.
Quite, exactly.
But to be
what they're capable of, what they can
Exactly,
achieve.
but to
So
be
you
able
touched
to-
on the achieving a pull-up, for example. So
Yeah.
I couldn't do, it's the bench hop, right? I couldn't do the full bench hop. I told myself in my head I couldn't do the
Yes.
full bench hop. So I'd be on the back and I'd just sort of, almost walk over it. And then the playoffs happened, which is another, great thing that you guys do, where you test your members on, is it 10 or 14 different exercises or something
10.
over a set period of time. And the bench hop is one of them. And the only way to get the point is to do it properly. So having been forced to do it properly, of course I can do it. And so now I do
Yeah.
it properly.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a huge achievement.
Of course.
Yeah.
It is. I was so impressed with you entering the playoffs. But we have stories like that all the time, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think that's a really important part of the challenge, to help members to sort of realize their potential in other ways. I'm like not anti-scale, but I'm not like super pro scale for a
being
for a
obsessed with
dietitian.
scales, because of
Yeah.
course people's weight, whatever that means, can vary from day to day. Doesn't mean anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, again, having that resource there to be able to explain those things as well, because,
Yeah.
again, taking it back, several years when, I was running the challenge and kind of just definitely wasn't making things up as I was going along, but, we didn't have a lot of knowledge back then. And, people would say, it get to like halfway and they might have not lost the amount of weight that they had hoped.
Yeah.
And they would give up.
Yeah.
And it was just
get
simply
discouraged.
because, I think if we were able to have that conversation with them, it would have been a different story. But there just wasn't that level of support. So they would just drop off. And I think our completion rate was, very low back in those days.
Right, wow.
And because of all these factors we've spoken about, right, I think the accessibility and, the sustainability of it all, cutting out alcohol for 8 weeks is, very difficult for most people, a lot of people. But now to be able to have, like I said, whether it's someone else that you're doing challenge with, whether it's a buddy or it might be someone you don't really know but it's in the WhatsApp group, just being able to, and then having Stella just guiding, saying, hey, stay focused, or, reassess your goals, which I think was the focus this week.
Yeah.
It's super important because it's a journey, right? It's not just a one, it's not a 1 week thing where we're like, okay, focus on this.
It's not a destination.
I think that's the way we need to look at it, and that's what pleases me. I won't say the most, but we've spoken about especially the last 3 challenges because they've been the busiest that we've ever had. But seeing those people do multiple challenges or do back-to-back challenges, which we hadn't really seen before, and I think they keep coming back because they're seeing small changes.
Yeah.
But they're focusing on that one small change at a time instead of thinking I've got 8 weeks to change my life or to lose 20 pounds.
Yeah.
And they don't, and they think, okay, well, I don't want to do the challenge again because it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Or it was too hard, or I'm not disciplined enough to do it.
Yeah.
Now we're taking away those conversations.
Yeah.
Right? Or
Do you know,
having those
I have been
conversations
guilty of that in my own head.
Yeah.
My internal self-talk, I'm guilty of that. Why aren't I achieving more? Why aren't I doing better? And then one of your emails pops up and it just brings me back to center and reminds me that that's not what this is about.
Yeah.
It's a journey.
Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Makes
and I
such a
think,
difference.
it's a lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
I think we've spoken about that in terms of what we do on a day-to-day basis. It's our lifestyle. Trying to, share that with everyone else who it's not their full-time job or not their full-time passion, but, we want to make a difference.
Yeah.
Right? And if you're coming in, like Stella said, if you're coming in at 5:30 a.m. Or whatever time of day, right? You're coming in and
Coming in at all.
spending 45 minutes with us.
Yeah.
We want to make it worth your while, and we want to, make a difference.
Yeah. So I suppose leading on from that, you see a lot of different clients, and you have done over the years, different backgrounds, different challenges. What are the biggest challenges that some of your clients face or have faced, and how do you help them sort of meet those and overcome them?
I would say probably the biggest barriers to to meeting health and wellness goals are people's time and their stress levels, and just that there's just so much going on.
Yeah.
And that's just what life is. You know, there's always going to be something going on. And yeah, to a certain degree, you got to make your health a priority, in the sense that you got to make that decision to show up to class, right? Or you got to make that decision to eat a healthy meal. And yeah, look, the barriers are always going to be there. Hopefully I try to help people get over those barriers for the most part.
Yes. I can attest to that. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the process of the challenge, right? Is learning. I try to get people to really dial into, like, what is causing you to not do what you want to do, or what is causing you to not eat a healthy meal. And then once you figure out what that is, you can work a way around it.
That's so interesting, right? Actually getting people to think about, sit down and actually think, maybe even make a note, what is the issue?
Yeah.
And that's one step closer to finding a way around it.
Yes. I mean, we're all individual, you know, we all have different things going on in our lives. Like, why are you not eating a healthy meal today? Figure it out, and then figure out how you can work around that.
Yeah. I love that. That's so positive.
Yeah. That's pretty much it.
I mean, for me, I think, you know, I'll let Stella focus on the nutrition, and you know, I'll kind of switch to the fitness or the workout side of it. But you know, we spoke about the new styles of workouts that are coming out now, a lot more team focused. What we're seeing is a lot more rep based, you know, workouts where we have to count our reps. You know, and I think the difference that has made, and you know, OJ and I tried to speak about this in one of our F40 live videos a while ago, but you know, I think instead of looking at it as, oh, this is a pain in the butt because I need to count how many reps, I think what it should achieve, and what it's trying to achieve, is getting people to actually focus on what they're doing. And that's what we've seen. And you know, for me, over the last 6 years, seeing people, and I will always advocate movement over not moving. So whether, you know, going back to another previous conversation, whether it's, you know, going for a beach walk or stretching or yoga or whatever it might be, like I would love everyone to try F45 and do F45, but the reality is it's not for everyone. So I'll always advocate and push for movement. But you know, I think we see people come in, and again, this is not a criticism, because you know, again, I want to see people come in, and you know, we've got members that have been with us since day one, right? Still coming. You know, I think we're nearly 5 or 6 people in the 1,000 club, which is huge. So, you know, but it's coming in, you know, and F45 workouts are great. I'm obviously very biased in that, but in that thinking, but you know, it was 45 seconds of work, 15 seconds rest, or 35 seconds of work, 25 seconds rest. And people work at their own pace, which is great, because I think that is a barrier to entry as well, as people thinking, well, I need to be advanced, or is there a beginner class? But no, you just come in and work at your own pace.
No, and I've had to do that recently. So with my shoulder injury, I've had to really focus on form. So, you know, some people might be going a lot faster than me, whereas I'm like, and normally I would be too, you know, just going for it. And I have to remind myself, focus on the form, focus on the shoulder. I
mean, there's that side of it as well, which I think is a whole nother conversation. But you know, I think for the general F45er that comes in, like today, 2-2, it's a super tough cardio workout, and it's 45 seconds. You just go all out, right? But there's a lot of workouts now coming in where you've got to focus on, you know, your form, number one. But I think when you're counting your reps, it really makes you dial in and think, okay, well, am I doing this? Or it should, right? So then you start thinking about how your body is moving. And that is going to, over time, translate into better results, instead of just coming in and just running around for 45 minutes, which is better than nothing.
Yeah, of course.
But it's trying to increase, because I think that's, you know, with the nutrition side of it and the challenge, we're trying to create better habits for people on that element, right? The nutrition, and trying to teach them what foods are good to eat, and when, you know, the ratios, the portion sizes. But in the studio, it's just like, okay, if you've got 45 minutes, it's balls to the wall. Like, let's just go as hard as we can. That's great. But, you know, I think it's good to throw in from time to time just these workouts where you've got to just maybe take a step back a bit and think, okay, now I need to actually really focus on what I'm doing. And instead of looking at the timer, I've got to get to 12 reps. And you still will be going hard. Like, I'm not saying you're going to slow down, but in your mind, I think you slow down and really focus on that mind-muscle connection, and actually think about what you're doing. right?
There's science, isn't there, behind if we focus on the area of the body that we're trying to work, then that activates that part of the body.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I think, these types of workouts will continue to come out and we'll continue to see them. And I think it's been a refreshing addition to the workout systems that we've got. And I think F45 has over 60 now different workout systems. But these new ones are really, we spoke about the team element. And for me, I think that's super fun. Valor on Friday was awesome, where you're working in teams and pushing, and to see members actually encouraging each other. And there were some members working out with each other that hadn't met.
Yeah.
And then that created a friendship.
Oh, yeah. No, I think I was in a team with people I hadn't really
And I mean, I don't want to say it forces you to come out of your shell, but I mean, it does force you to say, hey, I'm Ian, hey, how you doing? Let's do this.
Yeah.
But that's that warms my heart. Seeing that, it was amazing just seeing people work together. But I think that's what's going to make the difference. And keep F45, kind of towards the top of functional fitness or, group fitness, is that innovation and
the evolution
not just going
of
through
it.
the same thing over and over again, but it's, okay, today I'm actually going to focus on how many reps I'm doing, or, tomorrow I'm going to be working with someone else, so I'm going to have to rely on them a little bit and I'm going to have to encourage them. And it's also probably going to push me because I'm a little bit competitive, right? So there's all these different elements that come together, and instead of it just being, here's a diet plan or here's a meal plan, go follow it. Yeah. Here's an exercise plan, go and follow it. We just put it all together.
It's a lot more engagement.
You've got all the resources, you've got all the support, and it just, I think together it's just going to, I mean, I'm getting excited talking about it, but I think
I want to go and do another workout now. Let's go, guys.
Can you tell how much we love our jobs?
I totally can.
We love everyone.
We're getting goosebumps. But,
I love it. I love it.
There are people that come to F45 because they need to stay fit or they want to stay fit. There's a social element as well. But there's people, and I'm not saying everyone has to be performance orientated, but that's what we're seeing with the challenges. People they have a goal, right? And I think now that we've kind of switched the focus to nutrition, we can kind of flip-flop back to the workout side of it and say, well, okay, I want to set a goal for my workouts, and it might be today, like not stopping for the 45 seconds. Instead of just going, which I do, is going as hard as I think I can for 20 seconds and then dying for 10 and then starting again. But there's little things where we can start, and that's where people are going to start seeing those improvements and, start doing their first pull-up. Or doing 20 burpees in 20 seconds or 45 seconds instead of 10. It's those little performance increments or improvements, which for the member hopefully is going to be like, hey, wow, I can do my first bench hop. And now I can do them all the time without even thinking about it.
Yeah, right.
And that's been some of the best moments of my F45 life, is seeing someone do their first box jump, seeing someone get up on the pull-up bars and try their first pull-up, whether it's with the band or not, because some people have that fear of getting up on the bar.
Yeah, I certainly do. I don't want to fall off. Even with the band, I have to have OJ holding me in case I ping off it or something.
But again, the support is there.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And I think it's just kind of getting people to not necessarily come out of their shell, but actually get them thinking and say, instead of just going, okay, well, there's the red kettlebell, it's in front of me, so I'm just going to pick that up. It's, okay, well, your form is good. Let's try the blue one.
Yeah.
And more often than not, we're seeing people pick up the blue one and say, okay, that was harder, but I did it.
Yeah.
I worked for the 35 seconds and used the blue kettlebell. So now I'm going to do that until someone tells me to do the black. Right? So,
right, exactly.
But we don't expect all the members to know. Again, there's a small percentage of that population, I think, that know, okay, today I'm going to try to lift a bit heavier. There's all this progressive overload, which in the fitness industry is I don't want to say buzz term because it's the foundation behind it, right? Is, if you want to see improvements, you've got to have that progressive overload. Which is hard to track in F45 because of the workouts are different every day. So now it's again, a challenge for the trainers is to, okay, well, Shuvra did this, she used the 12.5 kg dumbbells for the chest press. She's been doing that for a few weeks now. I'm going to try,
you guys are great at that.
15.
You actually are great at that. You come round and sort of like grab the lighter weight off me and hand me a heavier one because you know how long I've been using that weight for, and I'm able to do the next one up. But form first and then load, and then that's where you start seeing the results. And, I think we're very fortunate that we have not a lot of churn in terms of the membership. Like I said, 1,000 club, 500 club. That's 1,000 classes for the 5 or 6 members.
And
that's incredible.
Five odd years. So shows how many people are still with us.
Yeah.
And like, I think well over 200 that have hit the 500 classes. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's these people that keep coming back, and, you know, I think it's a combination of they're coming back because they enjoy it, but they've also seeing some sort of result, whether it is during the challenge or, you know, doing the workouts. And now we're starting to do the playoffs again. I think, you know, we want to see people coming in and testing themselves and retesting themselves.
Yeah.
You know, talking about new workouts, benchmark. You know, we did that workout last.
Yeah, that was great. Week before last, I think.
Yeah, so 2 weeks ago, strength focused.
Yeah.
But testing. You know,
hence the name.
Weights. Yeah, exactly.
But that was also a teamwork element, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's going to come back again. You know, we can program it again when we want to. And the idea is, okay, again, you know, I did this set of this exercise using the blue kettlebell, and I did okay. For 8 weeks later, you know, I've been working my butt off during the challenge, so I'm going to try
the black.
Slightly heavier. So I think it's all those elements coming together, and I mean, I could talk about it for days.
Well, I think the thread that ties all of this together, and I'm coming full circle, is where you started, is that you're so passionate about it. You know, I see the energy in class every day. I see the energy right here, and that's fantastic. So for people who want to get into what you guys are doing, I'll start with you, Stella. Somebody who wants to get into diet, nutrition, who wants to be a nutritionist, what kind of advice would you have for them?
Ooh. Gee, you got to throw one at me. I got to think about this one. I mean, I think it just comes down to passion once again. No, what I will say is this. There are lots of people, especially in the fitness industry, who have a passion for nutrition, all right, and for, obviously, fitness. And there's so many of these people, all right, to choose from. But for me, it really comes down to where you're getting your information from, and so scientific evidence, right? So research. And so if you are somebody that wants to get into this industry, you got to go to the places where you are going to get I have a degree, so I have a dietetics degree. You don't necessarily need to get that degree, but you need some nutrition certification through a reputable and qualified provider, right? I studied in South Africa, so I'm not 100% sure what the avenues are here on the island to study. But yeah, it just comes down to sort of, you're not just doing a sort of a course on a course on the internet for your you know what I mean? You gotta, accreditation
is important,
proper
of course.
Accreditation. Yeah, that's a really tricky question. I don't even know if I answered it correctly.
No, you did. It was good. And what about you, Ian? Somebody wanting to, I mean, you've had the journey. You're on it still. I mean, everything's a journey, right?
So from a hiring perspective as well, you know, I've interviewed a lot of trainers, not just for the studio here, but studios I used to work for or with in the US. You know, I've had a lot of one-on-one interviews, you know, people that haven't worked in the fitness industry yet, people that have been in the industry for years. You know, for those that don't really are looking to get into it, I think it's just understand that, again, what we spoke about, you know, it's not all glamour. You know, I think a lot of people, and I've seen this firsthand, a lot of people think I get to walk around in activewear all day and, you know, I get to work out every day, you know, and it sounds awesome, right? For someone that loves fitness, especially. But it's early mornings, it's evenings, it's weekends. It's hard.
And it's setting up the gym, it's cleaning the gym, it's putting the equipment away.
I mean, a big thing, right? I think, you know, F45 we do, or F45 Cayman anyway, we do a good job of keeping the studio very clean. And I think it's, you know, it's imperative to the service levels that we want to provide. But it's the less glamorous side of it, you know, and we do. And the guys, you know, at the end of each night have to set up, and that takes time. At the end of the night, you just want to go home. I get it. You want to go home, go to bed, you know, have dinner, whatever. And it takes a bit of time to reset up the room. You know, as much as I say that's great innovation for F45, that each day people come in and the studio looks different, you know, behind the scenes of that is that there's hard work that goes into it.
It's not the Christmas elves, it's you guys.
Exactly. So there's a lot more to it than, you know, wearing activewear and being physical and getting to work out with people, and, you know, but again, you flip it back the other way and it's helping people reach their goals and, you know, saving a life, you know, is the, you know, the pointy end of it, right? Or, you know, then you trickle down from there and say, I've made a difference in this person's life. I've helped them get fitter, or I've helped them get stronger, help them get healthier.
Yeah.
And for us, I think to be able to do all of those things, right? Spoken about the challenge, the workouts, and I think all of that under the one roof with, professionals, right? Like certified trainers, certified, dietitian, not just someone that's done, a 2-week nutrition course. I think we've got all of that guidance under the one roof, and hopefully under, all with a bit of fun as well, right? Like I think it's a fun place to come.
I think we make it fun.
Yeah, I find myself laughing lots actually when nobody else is.
But but I mean, there has to be that element too, right? It's hard work, and especially if you're coming to the early morning classes, you see the 5:30 a.m. class. You were there this morning.
I was, as were you.
And people are just waking up. I think the 5:30 a.m. is very different to say the lunchtime class in terms of the energy maybe at the start, but sometimes you come in at 5:30 a.m. and the class is buzzing.
Gosh,
people are just chatting away. And everyone's just raring to go. And, but I think if they're quiet at the start, they soon get into it. But they work hard. But there's got to be that intrinsic motivation, right? I think to be able to turn up, and for us as trainers to be able to harness that, and to push that along. So. I mean, that's my advice to anyone trying to get into it. But like Stella said, do a recognised certification. Take it seriously, learn as much as you can, read as much as you can.
And continue to read and learn, right?
Well, that's right. There are lots of new developments, all the time. So you guys have to stay on top of all of that.
Yeah, constantly. And you always got to just... You put in, I mean, you get out as much as you put in, right?
As with anything, right?
In so many different ways.
Yeah.
As much passion and energy you put in, that's what you're going to get out from this job. As much work as you put in terms of improving your own qualifications, you're going to get rewards from that as well, right?
Yeah.
So you got to be willing, I think, to put in the work to get the rewards for this job.
Yeah,
for sure. And it's ever changing, right? There's advice changes, like similar to the medical profession, whether it's ongoing research or new pieces of research. I think the other thing is it's, likening it back to the law, it's not necessarily black or white like the law can be. Right? It's, okay, there is the correct way to perform a squat, but someone with poor ankle mobility is not necessarily going to be able to get as deep. So are they doing it incorrectly? Not necessarily. But how do you help that person? When someone can get their bum close to the ground, right, and get really deep into that squat. The bench press, how deep should you go? I think there's arguments either way. When you're lunging, should your knees go over your toes? There's now research saying that it's not bad.
Right.
Whereas
I remember in the old days, the trainers would be very much do not let your knee go over your toe.
Same with squatting. So it's again, I think the point I'm trying to make is that there's not necessarily a 100% right and 100% wrong. It's can be a bit of grey, but also, it's a challenge for the trainers is understanding each client or each member and being able to adapt. And, for F45, you might have 3, 4, 5 people doing the same exercise at the same time, but all with different abilities. And it's not just in terms of strength, right? Not just what weight they're lifting, but in terms of their mobility. There's key factors like deadlift, keep your back straight. Obviously, you don't want to hunch back. So there's those key elements that always stay true, but I think everyone's different. And I think that's the challenge for trainers is recognizing that, especially in that group training environment, is saying, like I said, that example, you might have 3 people doing a squat, and you've got to try to motivate each one of those people, make sure each one is doing it as correctly as possible to their
body composition.
Form. Exactly. So, but that's all education, but building relationships as well, right? Is understanding each person. We've got a lot of members at the moment, so it's not, it's not like we're dealing with just 100 people coming through the doors and it's like, okay, we know Shuvra, and we know exactly how much weight you can lift at every single station. It's a lot more in depth than that. So, they're the challenges, is just to stay on top and just do the best you can. But I think it's asking a lot of questions and wanting to know as well.
Having that first. Having that first.
Yeah, absolutely. And wanting to help. Again, wanting to make a difference.
I think that's the key, isn't it? The passion comes from wanting to help. As you say, you want to serve others. You want to make the difference in a person's life. And on that note, thank you so much. Thank you for being my first guests on my radio show, Shuvra Deb with you, here every Thursday at 2 o'clock, Bobo FM 89.1. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks
Pleasure.
so much.
Pleasure. Thank you all so much for tuning in and for listening to Shuvra Deb with you. And please do tune in every Thursday at 2 p.m. on Bobo FM 89.1 for more topics related to and relevant to mental health. If any of you would like to reach out to me directly about any of the issues I've discussed, please do email me at shuvradeb82@gmail.com. That's spelt SHUVRADEB, the numbers 82@gmail.com. Thank you so much for tuning in and listening.